You're listening to the Bombad Generals.
General? Oh.
Hello, welcome to the Bombad Generals. It's Seth. Today we got a very special episode. I'm here also with Matt, co-host, and we got a guest of honor today, Johnny Karma5five. Johnny Keys is here with us today. How are you, fellas?
A fellow Gungan at last.
Yeah, finally. I'm doing great. A little tired from all the big weekend, but still good.
Yeah, Johnny was on a plane back today, and we made him record because we need to get the information out to the people.
We need content
as soon as possible. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we want you to give it to us, Johnny, instead of us having to work for it. So to give everyone context, you were at the Bay Area Open this weekend. Previously, Legion by the Bay, because it was like happening at the same time as the FLG event, but not actually, and KublaCon and all that. Yep. This year was part of the FLG event, right? It was part of Bay Area Open, part of the circuit.
Yeah, it was. And then KublaCon was going on, and I didn't end up going over to it, but they had a way for you to get over there too. So if that's something you're interested in, it seems like they have some sort of agreement or cooperation going.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's basically where it was last year, right? It's still like right next to the airport, essentially.
Yeah, it was in the Courtyard Marriott, I believe it is, right there. The bar restaurant looks out, and you can see all the airplanes landing. So I think my trip from the airport to the hotel was something like 5 minutes long. It was fantastic.
Oh.
And it was a great hotel to stay in, too.
That is
unlike
good
the
stuff.
last event the three of us were at. But yeah.
It was not an hour and a half out to the event. That was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was
That's
probably
good.
2 hours. Did anyone ask you if you do crystal meth at this event? Because that also happened to us at the last one.
It
Okay.
did not happen at this one. It was a little different vibe from that standpoint.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I went last year to Bay Area Open, obviously, and it was a really good event and great venue. Nice time to be out in San Francisco. Very windy. I forgot how windy of a place it is, and you're right by the water there. But, whatever.
Yeah,
no one cares. We're here to play Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stayed in the hotel that we were at, so I did not spend a whole lot of time outside. But
I don't think
That's the way to
any
do
caters
it.
so.
yeah, it wasn't terrible. It was pretty nice not having to go anywhere. It's just like everything was right there.
That's
my one piece of advice for people looking to hit up the big stuff. It may be, if you can afford it, stay at the place where they're holding the event. And this is why I prioritize, if one event happens in a hotel where you can stay and one happens where you have to commute any sort of distance, I'm going to take the place I can stay every time because it makes the weekend
it's
so
very
much
convenient.
smoother.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
you're gaming from 9 to 6, 7 o'clock, which means, you probably have to show up at 8:30. Then you want to get food. You don't want to have to factor in driving places. So
No. It was really nice to look in and be like, oh, check-in's at 8. I should leave my hotel room at 7:55.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That's nice.
As long as the elevators don't break down like they do at
Exactly.
LVO every year.
Yeah,
True.
a lot less people than LVO, so the elevators were never a problem.
It's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, enough of that. We've got Spicy. It was weird because there was no points update for this. It's still
None.
obviously the current points that we have, but I feel like it was a different looking meta than what we've seen and kind of a peek into what the Ghost of Legion future could look like. So I'm actually at first I was like, oh man, is this going to be a bummer of an episode where we're talking about something that's like, oh yeah, there was darks and Blizzard Force everywhere. What do you know? But I don't think it is, and I think it's actually really going to be a cool conversation. And as our man on the ground, we're going to rely on you to tell us if we're seeing things that are real or not, Johnny.
No, I think, it was interesting. I think there was a lot of impact there that people were expecting more than, I don't know if there's 4 or 5 Dark Troopers total. In fact, there were more Codys than there were Dark Troopers. Yeah, which is funny. But yeah, just in general, I feel like it opened up a lot of play, and people were able to, play a lot more normal games than just having to worry about facing 8 Dark Trooper lists or anything like that. There was a couple of Blizzard lists as well. None of the Darks or Blizzards made it on to top 8 though.
Boo.
Wow.
So hopefully that doesn't affect
Good riddance.
updates at all.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be fair and balanced. Darks haven't won anything, so what's the problem?
Yeah,
What's the problem?
But I would say the biggest thing, as soon as I saw the list revealed and everything like that, was the amount of, Empire Pierce, I would say, because there were no Rebels at this tournament, nor were there any Shadow Collective for that matter.
Come on, Seth.
let's-
Yeah, we got the game uplink.
Yes.
I've never seen a pie chart like this pie chart. Literally, we're not exaggerating. 0 Rebels, 0 separate, or 0 Shadow Collective out of a field of 29 people. Not even one person was like, I want to try Ahsoka, because she was legal for this, right? She's been...
Yeah, she would have been legal for this too. But yeah,
Wow.
that was pretty amazing.
There it is.
In fact, it was a little bit of a running joke. I took Anakin and 2 Pikes along with a bunch of clones, and I had the most Shadow Collective in my list. So I was trying to get best in faction for Shadow Collective without actually running it.
Oh, yeah, nice.
There you go. Yeah, so what, Deem is just going home with 2 best in faction prizes in his suitcase?
I guess
that he
so.
just
I'm
couldn't
not sure.
give out?
I'm
man.
not sure what happened there exactly, but
For-
but yeah. Speaking of Nima, Tori, Brett were the 3 main people running it and judging, and did a fantastic job. Really, really well run, smooth, like everything just kind of running on all cylinders. So that was great.
And good tables too, right? From what
Yeah,
I didn't see pictures
those-
this year, but I remember good tables.
Yeah, it was basically. I remember a few of them from playing at LVO. A couple of them were. I don't know if they were new or if there's a ton of tables at LVO. I just never saw them, but all of the tables were great. I got there a little early to help unpack and.
Oh,
was
look
pulling
at this
all the
guy.
terrain out, and I was like, "Oh, this is yeah." Just
What a
just
helper.
happened. I'm just trying to be
Such a
as
nice guy.
as nice as the Canadian on our team here.
Oh no, that's a stereotype I do not abide by.
But yeah, they were all set up well. There was only one table that was a little trouble, and that was mostly from the judge's standpoint. The way that it was set up with some of the terrain had some weird curves on it right in the middle, and so all of their line of sight judge calls were all on that table, but they rearranged it for day 2. So it was something they noticed and got figured out.
Yeah, I do
Hey,
appreciate
that's
that
good on them.
they fix it
Oh.
the next day. So, yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, one of those, I think my round 2 game was on that table, and I think I called them. It was like almost, it was 2 or 3 times around.
Ooh, oof.
Yeah.
Was it
But,
because
I mean,
just
those-
like the curves of the terrain
Yeah,
pieces?
they were like shield generator pieces, and they were
Oh.
right in the middle of the table, kind of lined up parallel to each other, but offset a little bit. And so you got these weird angles where people are trying to get open shots, and not to beat on a dead horse, but with the new cover rules,
No, we'll beat that dead horse.
having a single line and slightly moving your model, your unit leader to try to get an open shot's a little easier. When it's, that wider range, your flashlight becomes a lot bigger, and there's a lot of those. It looks like it could be an open shot, and then it's just like you move slightly one way and it's still not. And
Wow,
so.
yeah.
I think good reminder for anyone who's listening who's gonna run like store champs or anything like that. Like, hey, if you need to change up a table because it's giving you a lot of trouble and it's not a good necessarily, not that maybe that was still a great play experience, but it's not quite what you want as the TO. Like, you're the TO, you can do that. And if I think a lot of events might have like a cut to top 2 for the 4th round. Maybe keep that in mind. Don't put the players on that table for the crowning part of the event. So just a couple things to keep in mind table-wise. The other thing, Legion or game uplink. I've noticed running locals very bad about when you have small events pairing people on the same table again that they've already played on. So keep an eye out for that. This has turned into just general random PSAs. But I think it's unlikely to happen in a really big event where there's like 60-30 tables. When you have a 16 person event with 8 tables, yeah, that can happen quite a bit. But sidetrack. Sorry about that. What do you guys make? I get no rebels. White saves are kind of a liability with the dice pools that Dark Troopers especially, but also Blizzard, what they're dishing out, like you just can't defend against it. But Shadow Collective, they have Black Suns. Is it just Black Suns have never been quite as popular as Pikes, so no one wanted to run those? What do you think? Because I feel like they would have done decently. Except for the snipers.
Except for the snipers. They would have had some chances to start whittling them down before they got there. I think, both Pikes and Black Suns aren't really things in Star Wars that people gravitate towards. That's true. So, like, if you're gonna, kit out an entire army doing that, it's a pretty big commitment. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the biggest thing holding back, like, a Black Sun skewed list.
It's a big commitment, like, cost-wise, because you're buying, like, 6 Black Suns or whatever, and you can only run them that way. It's a lot of painting the exact same units. I burned myself out a bit last year trying to paint a whole Pike army in 2 weeks. It's like, okay, these are 30 guys who all look the same. Man. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the thing when you get into real-life tournaments as well, that, on TTS you can click a button and it's there, but the commitment IRL is different.
Yeah, it's also like the most expensive because you have to buy like there's not like a core box like there is, but it's only
there is, but yeah. So that makes sense. But I think what I'm seeing is like a lot of people making good meta choices as far as bringing snipers because
Pierce.
13 for those who are only listening. I think it was 13 Empire, 10 Gar, 6 Separatists. So
5 Separatists, yeah.
5 Separatists. So and that's the trend we've been seeing, right? This is the extreme version, but a lot of red saves. So people said, hey, I'll bring snipers. And we haven't seen a lot of speeder lists necessarily, it feels like, that would prey on snipers other than Blizzard. So in a post-Blizzard world, I feel like invest in sniper stock.
Yeah, there's like that balance of like how the sniper changed because of the wound allocation is a little bit different, but they're still effective. Like I think they're one little nerf where like you you lose take a wound, like you then hide your leader, but that's no longer the case. But other than that, like I think they're still sharpshooter, Pierce, like great, just great units, cheap.
Were they the bane of your existence, Johnny, throughout the weekend playing the clones?
Yeah, they were. I played Miles Darcy. In fact, he was my one loss on day one. We had a fairly close game, and actually his list is I think intriguing going forward. And then he was running Palpatine, IRG, 3 snipers, and then a bunch of do you have it pulled up there?
Oh yeah, wow, Seth, quick on the draw.
And then look at that. And then you know what was surprising to me were those HH-12 Stormtrooper specialists. I swear every time that he had those, he'd get an aim because he gets the Stormtrooper specialist, and then he just recover, or he'd forget that and then recover and shoot. And I swear he was rolling 5 to 7 hits at me every single time that those guys shot.
Wow.
Which was a little surprising. I wasn't particularly scared of HH-12s right up until that point. In fact, he and I were the third and fourth place and played a little fun game while the championship game was going on, and he also beat me in that, but I had to approach it much differently. But yeah, it was basically impossible to get wounds onto him with barrier, and I think some list like this is actually probably underutilized right now.
Yeah, I think he was running, because I played him twice last year, and that was very similar to what he was running, but now obviously with a little bit more anti-Dark Trooper tech. And yeah, I just pulled up on Tell Me the Odds, simulated the aimed shot from a full squad, and yeah, like 5 or 6 hits before cover is very reasonable for those guys, which is... And like, what, you want to shoot those guys? You want to shoot the HH-12 squads when there's T-21s, PAL, IRG, like... Or even if you do shoot them, he's got IRG, he's got medics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and he had barrier too, so you had to... Just to get him to roll 1 save, you had to get 5 hits through it. Well, 7 if he's got heavy cover, so...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a lot of whittling down to finally get through that, but... he ended up beating me both times, and those snipers just took off a bunch of early attrition, and that was kind of the way it is. Like I didn't run up against, I think there was an Iden triple snipers or 2 snipers and Inferno squad, and that one just seemed like an absolute nightmare for me too.
Iden is really good. Iden's really good.
Always has been, always will be.
And Inferno's really good. Like, I'm sure we're just going to see a whole bunch of Iden, Inferno, and X-Hero.
Yeah,
soon.
the fact that they're like the 5th best Empire list right now is kind of scary.
Yeah.
That's true,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Which they'll probably get back up to top 2. Like,
I think so. I think Iden Boba's probably, one of the best versions of that, and I could see Boba getting a change, but even if you went with like Iden IG or whatever, or just cut some points, I think it's still really strong. Similar to, Cassian's really strong, but Rebels struggle a bit more with getting him the aims he needs. But like high velocity, and he brings K2, which I think in this meta is just a lot worse than Inferno Squad.
Yeah.
Because, clones, and if someone had brought Shadow Collective, Black Suns, we already said, don't like snipers. Pikes don't like snipers. Really, only Separatists really like snipers. And they, because they say, whatever. But B1s are kind of in a so-so kind of place right now. So you're feeling pretty good with a bunch of snipers.
Yeah. Well, and even snipers, like just starting to plink away at 1 or 2 units of B1s is usually really effective. Having played B1s, when people just start shooting my even if they're in heavy cover and it's like taking 1 or 2 models off, it feels bad every single time.
So that's the big takeaway for me, for sure, from this one is. And do you feel like, because you said there's a lot of impact there and not a lot of Dark Troopers, and I bet people with Dark Troopers are probably scared off because people are teching hard against them. Do you think it hurt people? Seth and I were talking about, local metas and not over teching, necessarily going into these store champs. Now, Dark Troopers are a bit of a weird case where it's hard to over tech, but do you think there were people who were getting hurt by, I brought so much impact and I skewed so hard for Darks that against these quote unquote like normal lists, I'm just way less efficient than I could be, and I'm gonna be at a disadvantage because of it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Snyder, who won it, was running his Barks with RPS guns, and I don't know if he faced armor the entire tournament. And yeah, I think the HH-12s, the configuration with the specialist on there was pretty good. I don't know how. I faced one list that had HH-12s that didn't have the specialist on it, and basically he never got into range 3 of me at that point. But yeah, I think it's a lot of extra points that you're spending on stuff that doesn't then get utilized. Yeah, I only had 1 RPS unit in mine, and that ended up being a fairly good fire support target early for Echo, even if the impact didn't matter. It's just, I think it rolled 4 or 5 hits with Pierce, and then sharpshooter 1. So I mean, they're usually rolling 3 or 4 dice with Pierce 1 if they just try to sneak up into that range 4. So
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like that line of thinking, that insight there, as far as yeah, you can bring a lot of impact, but it's got to be doing something else. Like you want it doing something else. So HH12s with the specialist, now they're a pretty good just recover shoot platform. RPS, great fire support starter. Even I know Snyder he likes heavies on his barks too. So even without facing armor, hey, now my barks hit a lot harder.
Yeah.
Versus go ahead.
No,
you go ahead.
we were talking about his list, and he also had the fire support platform with the RPS, where both of us had a scout on at least one of them to get up there. So if somebody wanted to come up early, we had that. His was with the bark instead of echo, like I had. So if somebody moved into range 4 to take a shot at his RPS, he would fire support with a bark, which is like 9 dice surging.
Yeah, triple rainbow.
So yeah, that one makes you pay.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's as hard as the ATST right there.
Yeah.
Harder if they don't have.
That's true. Yeah,
I forget what they're called. The hammer
pilot, hammer pilot, and it's easier to get like out of cover shots with the bark or light cover. So there's two things I find interesting is the one of all the winning list, and I see a lot of the lists. Like your average is like 9 activations, and I see a lot of 8 activations. Like, I know we always try to say like, hey, hit around 10, but like 8 seems pretty, especially when you have like a good red save army. Like 8 seems like
I think that's the
at least
critical
9?
thing, right?
Yeah,
They're all red saves. I still don't want 8 with rebels, but you never know.
Like it's like beefy units.
There was one. Brad was running an 11-act Maul Stap list, but I think that was the highest activation count.
Wow.
Without remembering all the list exactly, but yeah, there was most of them were 8 or 9. I think was it? I think everybody I played was at 9. Yeah,
and that's
interesting.
Yeah, and that maybe is why something like Palp, when we look at Miles Darcy's list and we talk about how I was playing against the same thing last year, well, that's just better now. If last year we were still very much in that 10-act, 10-11 act zone because it was pre-pass rule. A lot of stuff was different back then. Now that it's 9 acts, you're not losing out by having only 9 acts with Palp or only 9 acts with Gar, because that's what everyone's doing.
Yep.
It's true. Yeah. Still to this day, the pass mechanic, my favorite addition in the CRD. Like
yep.
Butter. And that second thing I noticed was I was actually very surprised with this. We talked about this, but saw a lot of Cody, that like did really well.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny in the top 8 pairings. There was 2 Anakin lists, which was mine and Snyder's, and then there were 2 Yoda Cody lists, and we both got paired up. So it was basically Anakin versus Yoda and Cody in round 1 of day 2. Anakin ended up winning both matches. So that was my only game against Cody, and he wasn't effective really at all in that list. And it was mostly, he ran up into range 4 of my RPS gun, and then I fire supported that back with Echo, and he took 5 he was 1 wound short of dying.
4 wounds then, yeah.
4 wounds, yeah. So I rolled 5 hits, 1 to cover, and he only got 1 block, which I pierced. So it was a little unfortunate for him,
but he doesn't really have surge access either in a Yoda list. That's the thing. Yeah. So that's not too failing. Getting 1 out of 4 saves when the average is 2 out of 4 is pretty normal.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what you're saying is we weren't wrong about Cody. People were winning despite Cody. The Bombad Generals, still the best takes, all of that.
They also both had Yoda in them, and Yoda can kind of carry a lot of games.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really hear much about those weren't games that I kind of heard, side chatter on how they won or what was going on with those games, so I don't really know. But they also both had ATRTs in them.
I'm looking
and
at
I know
that.
the ATRT did not fare well against me with my Pike's impact and the RPS impact in Echo. He kind of got taken out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I assume it was probably similar against Snyder too.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it and it's like ATRT with like a comms relay, so you're getting like a direct to like a unit that's not a not a vehicle. I just think like it's like
It's a lot of
going for
points
that.
to
Just
do
get the
that.
clone commander, you know. Like,
Right. Yeah. And they use Cody a lot as sort of an extra sniper. You know, like a short range sniper. It's rolling a crit, getting a pierce, just kind of picking off stuff that way. But I don't know. I think he's all right. I wasn't overwhelmed by him. I think there was a lot of Cody lists though too. I think there was like 8 or 9 Cody lists.
wow.
It seemed like so. A lot more paired with Anakin and Yoda than I would have suspected, because I never really thought about that when I was prepping for lists. But I also didn't have time to practice with Cody or anything either. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
but
Cody kind of shines on Yoda's 2-pip, but that's what 2 times a game. That's kind of
yeah. Well, he ended up using it on the 5 squad, which also isn't a terrible.
yeah.
So was he like, so if he had 5, so it's like Cody direct to the ATRT, comms relay to 5s, and then coordinate back to Cody. Okay. Or just to other
wasn't-
clones, I guess.
No, because 5s can only coordinate to a core trooper, I think,
yeah.
right?
Nope. He can go to any clone.
Is it?
No,
go
no,
to
it's
any
the
clone.
clone commander that can only go to a core.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because back in the day, what you would do is you'd have your clone commander,
Yeah.
and you would have 5s, and then when you you would have Anakin. So you would play the clone 2-pip, put the order on Anakin, and then bounce an order back to the clone commander, so you could go with the bombard.
Yep.
That's why I remember that
Big brain
specific
stuff
interaction.
Right there.
Yeah, it was amazing, but not actually.
No
back
surge, air
in
support.
Biden.
No,
Yeah.
that was a tough game. I mean, he had the couple of bad rolls to start off with, but I think I won that game on turn 0 and turn 1 anyway. Where I forced it into sabotage, and then all I had to do was worry about R2 scoring on advanced positions, and it's pretty easy to set up a gun line to defend against that corner of the board.
Yeah.
So snipers, yes. Cody, jury's out. Maybe we're wrong. Who knows? How about Boyle? Because did you have Boyle in your list?
Yeah.
That was the guy I really liked out of that pack, and he seems very useful if there's a lot of snipers around.
Yes. In fact, it took me a couple of games to figure him out. Not that he's real complicated, but just how many times do you want to like pull wounds onto him or make him roll? And basically every time is, even if it's like 5 or whatever, it's like you've got a pretty good chance. I had him in a phase 1, which I was totally fine with. There was always surge access available, especially with a clone commander and Anakin around. But yeah, I mean, he kept a couple of my units alive a lot, especially my RPS usually was taking the brunt of all the firepower because they were just slightly out front to start a game off with, and I was fine with nobody having impact or nobody having armor.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, okay, keep shooting them, and then I probably need to work a little bit on when to pull them out of the line of fire, but other than that, like, he took a lot of wounds or just dice rolling off of those guys, so that it's like 5 and then a dodge, and then he takes 1, and then I'm rolling 3 and maybe taking a wound or something like that. That happened quite often. But he's really effective. With the snipers, he was great. Although Miles was rolling a lot of crits with his snipers, so that was less great.
Well, it's gonna happen, but I feel like once darks, if darks go back away, and you don't have to put saber throw on Anakin, getting that sweet force barrier, that's gonna take things to 11.
Yeah, I would have loved to have force barrier. I think the other thing with my list is I would have loved to have the Pike capo in there instead of the commander. I just figured with darks, I needed to hedge with always having a fire support option.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, we
Especially
said the
because
same
that capo
thing.
helps with the Anakin flock art. So that's
Yeah, exactly. I got
It's so
flawed a
good,
couple
yeah.
of times, but it was so late in the game it didn't really ever affect anything. So
Yeah. Then, last question.
We go.
Was there any like
Oh.
unique lists or anything that you saw that you were like, oh man, like
well,
that kind of looks cool?
I mean, I think maybe it's not unique, but Miles's was a little challenging. My second round opponent, Oliver Casillas, his HH12s didn't do a whole lot, but he also had 3 Death Troopers and an IRG lined up with Krennic and Boba Fett. So that was a little bit of a difficult game when I saw the list to approach. Death Troopers are something I haven't seen a whole lot of, but then seeing 3 of them all of a sudden was like, oh, I gotta remember how to deal with these guys. So
Which I know
That's-
Death Troopers hate snipers. Like,
yeah,
ooh,
Yeah.
right. So this is kind of a list but also it's 3 Death Troopers, so the snipers can only do so much to those
yep,
two.
yep.
And there's IRG. That's just, there's so much. For people who
That
are
is.
listening,
Yep.
9X, it gets to 9X. You've got 3 Dark Troopers, all with, the DLT, the config, 3
No,
HH12s.
three Death Troopers. Sorry.
Sorry, Death Troopers.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
okay.
goodness, that would be terrible otherwise. Yes, sorry. 3 Death Troopers, all with the DLT and the config. IRG with the staff and protector. Storms with HH12, loaded up Boba, and Krennic with Binox. Like, that's a lot of firepower.
Yeah.
And in a meta where 9X is the average, that seems
Yeah.
very serviceable.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a really close game for me, right up until he drew Boba at the wrong time.
Good.
Mm.
And then he moved Boba out, and then I think I had like 3 or 4 units that were able to shoot him pretty effectively and take him out there.
That's the problem with running the comms relay version of Boba.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see maybe dropping that, maybe either slimming down. I think probably if I were gonna try something like that, I'd take the 3rd HH12, cut that up into 2 specialists, and maybe drop the comms relay to get the extra couple points. And then you've got 2 specialist HH12s, as we talked about earlier, and the last stormtrooper can just diddle away and do objectives or whatever.
Fair. Yep.
But that's spicy. I would have to go out and buy 3 Death Troopers, and Krennic. So probably not, but I might mess around with it on TTS to see what I like.
Yeah, because they hit pretty hard. And then that range 4, you have to be really careful on
Oh
turn
yeah.
1 and 2.
Oh yeah.
So, and then there was one other one. I didn't see this list at all, but there was, and I'm really glad I didn't face it. It was an AAT with, here, it's Cody McBride's. I didn't see it there, but it's 3 Ion Spiders, an AAT, and Kalani with a bunch of PK series worker droids.
Oh,
Yep.
oh, disgusting. 9X CIS. Wow, again.
Yeah.
What a world we live in now with
Never
9X
would've
CIS.
thought.
But
Who would've
That's
thought?
9X
It-
CIS that's hitting at range 4 most of the time.
That's the thing.
So,
Golly.
it's not playing like a CIS list because like you've got the units that you're actually caring about. They're not like regular white save units. They're white save units behind armor in the spiders, or a red save unit behind armor in the tank. Like I'm sure the B1s are just off doing
well,
whatever
they're
the heck they feel
standing
like
right
repairing.
behind the AAT, just repairing
Yeah.
whatever you shoot.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Oh,
because that's
golly.
what 1, 2, 3. That's 6 wounds that you have to
Yep.
get
That
through.
they can peel off with perfect order control
Yep.
if they need to.
Lord.
Yeah, that's okay.
So,
I like it.
I'm glad I didn't run up against
Spicy.
it. Yeah, I think the single AAT with 2 spiders might be a little easier, just from a control standpoint on the spiders. But I'm sure it's fine.
Oh yeah, to actually get the orders
The-
on them every turn
yeah,
to recover shoot.
exactly.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, other than that, yeah, those were kind of the 2 lists that popped out at me. One because I played it, and the other one just because it was completely different than most other stuff I've seen.
I like it.
I
to
like
see
it. I don't think a lot of the takeaways from today will be invalid in a week. I think, and that's cool because I think what we saw here was an example of how, hey, you fix a couple of the big bads, and things open up a bit. Now, hopefully, if those things actually get fixed and people aren't worrying about them at all, or to a much less degree, then we see some rebels come back into the mix. You know, that we need that for a healthy game, but it's a step in the right direction where we're seeing, hey, there's a lot of cool things that can flourish and be viable.
Yep.
Yeah, it definitely felt really open.
That's good. That's good.
For next year, would you recommend Bay Area Open to a friend?
Yeah,
Family,
absolutely.
colleague?
Yeah, it was great. Everybody down there was great. Yeah, all of my games were really fun. There's a pretty big contingent from Portland that came down. Really nice guys. So, yeah, it's a well-run tournament. Easy. It's the best part's just like getting to the airport and then just being in the hotel that it's played at. Like that was by far the best part. And then Nima and crew are fantastic at running tournaments. So, yeah, double thumbs up.
Ring endorsement.
Exactly.
There you go. 5 stars. Certified fresh. All of the
Certified
above.
fresh.
Yeah.
Bay Area Open. Hit it up next year.
Awesome.
You may get to meet Johnny. Who knows?
Yeah, it's on my list of things to consider for next year. I'll, probably looking at doing it as long as there's nothing bigger that's around that for me.
For sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Johnny.
Crush
Yeah,
it
thanks,
in your YBTL stuff because you are one of the JJS boys. So
Come on.
yeah.
Yeah, gotta make
do
up
us
for some
proud.
of those losses that we keep having.
Ooh. No comment on
No
that. That
comment.
could be. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Alrighty, well, thanks everyone for listening as well. Hopefully this was helpful as we go into Store Champ season and start to think about what you're running and what you want to tech for and how you want to read the meta. So hopefully that's handy. So remember, bring snipers, I guess, and stay Gungan.
This has been the Bombad Generals.
Listening to Bombad Generals is not scientifically proven to make you a better Legion player. Side effects may include bad dice rolls, missed triggers, aim losses, bankruptcy, divorce, vomiting, and sudden death. Ask your doctor if Bombad Generals is right for you.